Hey everyone, it is late at night and I am Norman, and it is time, yet again, for some more watch news. So let us begin. The first bit of news, or in this case, the first watch we'll be looking at, is a Longines Spirit Zulu time. The Zulu time is a great looking GMT watch. It's on the larger size at 42mm, and it's somewhat thick at nearly 14mm. It features Arabic numerals for the hour markers and has a blue colored GMT hand with an arrow at its tip. It also features a GMT bezel, sword hands, and an amazing looking seconds hand that literally goes all the way out to the very edge of the dial. These watches retail for about $3,000, so they are not cheap. What do I think of these watches? I feel like they look absolutely brilliant. It's sad that they're so large. I feel like some other size variants would be good, at least a 40, maybe a 38 as well. That would just be a little bit more versatile for people with different sized wrists. I love the hour markers on these watches. That GMT hand with a pop of blue is just great. And again, that seconds hand that goes all the way to the edge of the dial, just so cool. There's also another touch of blue in the text on the dial, which is actually pretty minimal. There's 3 lines at the 6 o'clock, then the Longines branding and the word automatic below that. But for the most part, the dial's pretty clean. Everything appears to be really well balanced on this watch, at least in pictures, and it looks so great on that brown strap. I really should get me a GMT sometime. The next bit of news is actually a watch brand, and I really hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, but the brand is Kuo Kyoto. And the watch in particular that we're looking at tonight is the Old Smith. So Kuo Kyoto constantly comes up on my social media feeds, typically as ads, and the watches always catch my attention, and a couple times I've clicked on it and perused their catalog, and it's very intriguing. They have some watches that are kind of vintage size, military inspired, just really great looking pieces from what I can tell. Now the Old Smith is a customizable watch. You can choose the dial color, and the options that are available are ivory, black, green, and navy. For $138, you can update to a domed sapphire crystal. You can choose if you want a date or not, and you can also get this watch on a bracelet for an additional $118. The base model sells for about $360. They have 35mm cases, so they're very classy. They feature Arabic numerals, sword hands that widen near the ends, and elegant curving cases. For about $50 more, you can get cool dial colors like the brick reddish brown dial, which looks amazing. I love the aesthetics of these watches, and the fact that you can customize them somewhat is also pretty cool. And personally, I love that case size. They are a bit spendy at $350 for a base price, but who knows, maybe they're worth it. If any of you out there have owned any of these watches or currently own one, be sure to let us know how they are in the comments. Next up, we have a Land Rover watch, the LR002. And these watches are made by Bamford. The Bamford LR002 is the second collaboration the brand has done with Land Rover. The LR001 featured the same unique markers, but in a different colorway. The LR002 brings us a black dial variant. The 001 was a limited edition, and it's currently sold out. Only 100 watches were produced. The LR002 will be similarly limited, with only 100 watches being produced. They have a case size of 40mm, a case height of 13.25mm, and a water resistance of 100 meters. These few watches retail for about $1,700. What do I think of these watches? I love the super unique aesthetic. Those markers are absolutely crazy. And I also like the 002's all black colorway. I feel like it really complements the design in general. These watches look super minimal and yet not at the same time. And even with all that minimalism, they're still really functional. I mean, those markers are pretty much just as functional as sub-style dive watches with dot indices, only these are a little bit fuzzy at the 3, 6, and 9, just because they're so stretched out. I really like the stick hands and the white colored seconds hand, and the leather single pass strap that's in the photos, that's pretty cool too. Yeah, I think these watches are great looking. And the price isn't too terrible, I suppose. I feel like maybe closer to 1,000 might be a better price point for them, and they definitely should make more than 100 pieces. And by the way, this watch was brought to us by Hodinkee, and the link to the article is in the description below, along with all of the other things that we're discussing tonight. Next up, we have a Miffy watch, and this piece is brought to us by Worn & Wound. Now, I had no idea what in the world Miffy was before I saw this article. These watches are a collaboration between DeRijco and Co. Sorry about that. And Revolution Team. They are fun, whimsical watches with a thick blue section around the edge of the dial that houses the applied hour markers. There's a moon phase complication featuring Miffy, a cute bunny that was conceived in 1955. Over 100 million copies of the Miffy books have been sold. There has been a television series and clothing lines that have featured the character also. The crown on these watches is situated between the 1 and 2 o'clock positions, which is pretty unique. There's a translucent dial element below the moon phase portion of the dial so that you can see the second moon phase with Miffy sitting on the moon opposite the current moon phase display. These watches have 38mm case sizes, they're 11mm tall, and they sell for about $3,000. What do I think of these watches? I absolutely love them. What a fun, bright, colorful, crazy looking watch. I feel like it has a lot going on, but it isn't busy at all. And being able to see a little bit behind the scenes, where the hidden moon phase is still kind of visible, is pretty cool. I feel like these are just really great looking watches. It's cool to see a brand that can pull off fun really well without being too cheeky or cheesy. I feel like this watch is pretty well dialed in. Next up, we have a watch that was featured in a Monochrome Watches article. The Chopard LUC Full Strike in Sapphire is a 42.5mm watch that is encased entirely in blue sapphire. I'm a sucker for clear things. So this watch intrigues me, even though I would never own such a beast, even if it weren't limited to only 5 pieces. And even if it weren't price on demand. I can't even imagine what these are being sold at. The dial is skeletonized and extremely busy, and also made of sapphire. There's a power reserve indicator at the 2 o'clock position. This complication features 2 hands, because this watch has a minute repeater. So one hand indicates the power the watch has left, and the other is the repeater's power. That sounded really funny. If that is too low, it will not chime. There's a mechanism that keeps it from activating, a safety mechanism, if you will. What do I think of these watches? The innovation that went behind making an all sapphire crystal watch like this is pretty cool. I feel like that's impressive in any watch that is 100% cased in sapphire. But it is way too busy. Just way too busy. I would love to see a brand try something like this in a nice minimal dressy watch. That would be pretty cool. A Bauhaus watch with a sapphire crystal case. That would be wild. I'll have to track down what the repeater sounds like in this particular watch. I've never seen a minute repeater in person, but the audio that I've heard of them, I feel like it might be a bit annoying. I don't know. And I probably never will know. Most repeaters are extremely expensive. And it's so crazy that they only made 5 pieces. I mean, a ton of work went into pulling this off. I mean, an entirely sapphire crystal case, the minute repeater, all that stuff, and you only made 5 watches. So a tiny handful of people on the planet will ever see these watches. But yeah. Next up, we have something from a blog to watch. And now for something completely different. I encountered a blog to watch post on a bespoke watch strap company. The straps in the photos look really great, but that might just be a credit to the photographer. I feel like a good photographer can make anything look cool, right? But then I saw the prices. Some of the straps sell for about $140 for a bespoke watch strap. That isn't terrible. So I'm thinking I may have to give this brand a try at some point. I mean, I even kind of like the double padded one. That's not usually a style that I'm into. But yeah, I may have to get one of these straps and let you know how they are in person. So there you have it. You are now caught up on the news. Thanks for watching.